A wounded animal will fight harder. And that's the way I was. If I sustained an injury in the ring, my instinct is to give back more punishment to my opponent.
Welcome, everyone. This is Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio, episode 766, and today's guest is Don the Dragon Wilson. I'm Jeremy Lesniak. I'm your host here for the show. I founded Whistlekick because I love traditional martial arts. I've been a traditional martial artist all my life, and I know I'm not alone. And so we, as an organization, do a whole bunch of things for you, the traditional martial artists of the world. If you want to show your support, well, you've got a lot of things that you can do. Start at whistlekick.com. Check out all the stuff that we've got going on. There's a good chance that something we're doing resonates for you. And if you simply engage, participate, purchase, that's all we need. If you want the fullest experience for this or any other episode, go to whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. Yes, your podcast player on your phone or tablet does give you the show notes, but there are things that it filters out of the show notes, things that you're going to see at the website that you are not going to see on your little phone. And let's face it, most of you listen while you drive anyway. So whether you are watching this on YouTube, listening in a podcast player, the fullest experience you can get is at whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. While you're over there, you can check out all the episodes we've ever done. You can sign up for our newsletter. You can throw us a tip. You could do all sorts of good stuff. And why might you do that stuff? Because we are working hard to connect, educate, and entertain the traditional martial artists of the world. Folks just like you. And if you want to support our work, let me give you a couple specific examples. Yeah, you could buy something. You could follow us on social media. You could leave a review. But maybe you wanted to know that today's episode was coming up. The only place we release that information is on our Patreon. And that membership starts at just $2 a month. There's also other tiers with all kinds of other good stuff. Now, if you want the whole list, if you want, hey, Jeremy, where's the one place I can go and see all the things I could do to help Whistlekick and the mission to connect, educate, and entertain? Well, it's the family page. Whistlekick.com/family. Go there. You've got to type it in. We do that intentionally. If you're family, you're willing to take that small step. And it's all the stuff you can do to help us out, as well as some stuff that we do not post anywhere else. Today's guest, Don Wilson. Many of you know him as a celebrated professional kickboxer. Many of you know him as a consummate actor, appearing in so many movies. But I have a feeling that most of you know him as both, because he has been prolific in and out of the ring, on and off the screen. And I was absolutely honored to talk to him today. Hey, welcome.
I'm happy to be here finally. And I apologize about, we had a problem. I had a problem getting back to my office and then getting hooked up last time.
Yeah. So it's all good. It's all good. You are nowhere close to the record for the longest time between when we started and when we finally got somebody on the show. I'm trying to remember who it was. There's somebody it was 5 years.
You've been doing this for 5 years?
We're in our 8th year.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've been doing this for a while. It's been fun. Get to meet a whole bunch of people. Tons of your friends have been on the show.
Hey, now, you know what? I haven't watched your show, but is it...
That's okay.
What is the official name? Whistlekick or something? Or
Whistlekick is our company. We do a variety of different things, apparel, protective equipment. We do events. But Martial Arts Radio is this show. So it's Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio.
Okay. Well, then I have a very good reason to be here.
You do. You agree. And correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't your daughter go to Middlebury?
Yes, she does. Vermont. Yeah.
Yeah. So
she's graduating this year.
If Vermont knew how to make roads that went east-west, I could be at the college in 45 minutes.
Really?
I'm in Montpelier.
Oh, I bet it's cold where you are then.
I was just out walking in a t-shirt.
Oh my gosh.
It's like 61, 60. What does this say? It's not telling me. It's like 60 degrees out. It's great.
Oh my God. Because, I'm in Los Angeles, and that's one of the reasons why everybody likes living here is Mediterranean climate. We never get the ice and the snow and all that. And,
right.
But we had a drought for over 10 years. And that is really messed up LA, the drought.
Yeah, I am worried. I keep seeing news articles about what they're going to do with the Colorado and everything. And,
Well, you know what? I'm looking right now. I'm in my office. This is my home office. Put it right in the front of the house. So if I have anybody come over, they don't wander around through the house. They just come right in. The front door is right there. And I'm now looking out into the yard through windows, and I have no grass. We purposely got, a big yard for the kids and everything. And it's got like an acre of yard, but an acre of dirt now.
I have an acre, and it's still pretty green. I mean, there are a lot of leaves down on it right now. But
look, if that's the only problem you have in living in California, then we're lucky.
You're doing all right. Yeah.
Most of the things here are all positive. Yep. So I actually have my next door neighbors just leaving. People are leaving though, because I guess it's financial reasons.
Yep.
It's expensive in LA, and I'm thinking it's property taxes or something. I'm not really sure why people are leaving, but
it's the whole pile. It's the whole pile of living there versus elsewhere. Vermont,
Florida, and the people, my friends here. He's a director. He's directed me in 2 films. He moved to Florida. Yeah, and he feels like I guess he's getting his Directors Guild retirement or something, which is not bad. And then, but it goes further if you're in Florida than it does in LA.
Oh, absolutely. I think everything goes further.
Yeah, my boxing trainer went to Texas.
Yeah.
So it's like my agent passed away a year ago, unfortunately for me. I had him since 1985, one agent. And yeah, you know what? And I thought, I don't need a agent. But the reality is you do need, here's the thing is that agent did a lot of work for his 10%. He's on top of all the new films coming up before something gets made, like The Matrix, let's say. He knows there's a martial arts sci-fi being done by the studios. And, but me, I'm like retroact. If people really want me, then they just call me. They figure out, they find me somehow through people that know me, and they ask me to be in their films, and I do it. But that's no way to run your career. That's just...
But you got to get there somehow, right? You can't start off.
I've been acting for 40 years now, believe it or not. 1982, I did a Chinese movie. What was it? New York, Chinatown. Okay. And so it wasn't a career move. I just appeared as a bad guy because I was very popular in Hong Kong as a fighter. I had 6 fights there. So they thought putting me in a movie would be good. And I was a bad guy, and I guess it was good for the movie. And then, but I just went back to my kickboxing then. And then I met Chuck Norris. And he said, Don, when you retire, move out to LA, get an agent, and be an actor. Chuck suggested it to me. He said, it's a great second career. And that's what I did. I moved out there in 85. And of course, they weren't looking for 6-foot tall Asians with Southern accents. But because I'm from the South, Florida. But I get accidentally called in for a movie called Blood Fist. Accidentally, because they were looking for Caucasian lead, because they were trying to do something like Bloodsport. I don't want to call it a ripoff, but that's technically what it was, Blood Fist. It was just Bloodsport, but with me instead of Van Damme.
There are really only like 3 plots in martial arts films, so it's kind of hard to not rip off something that's already been done.
Well, listen, I've done 30 movies. I starred in 30 movies now. And I've done versions of other people's movies. Yeah, I did a version of Death Wish. I did a version of Under Siege. Mine was called Ground Zero. Oh gosh, something just happened.
That's okay. It was a little bit of stutter in the
you know what it is?
the network
People
connection.
Are calling me. I think. Yeah, that's what it is. So you know what though? I don't know how you run your business, but I when I don't recognize the number, I never pick it up.
Unless I'm expecting a call, I don't answer it because it's always a scam.
Yeah, well, you know what? I get a lot of messages left. They're trying to get me to buy a house or do refinance or all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But I only if it pops up and I see the name, then somebody that I know and I do business with or have friendship with, and then I absolutely pick up.
Sure. I want to go back to you being a bad guy in your first film, because that's something that I've heard anecdotally a lot of actors are really afraid of. They're afraid of being typecast as a bad guy and how that plays out.
Well, you know what? Maybe I should have been afraid of it, but I knew so little about the movie industry that I don't think I may have heard the word stereotyped or typecasting.
Yeah.
But I I had never dealt with it. I didn't get into kickboxing with the idea that, oh, this is going to lead to a film career.
Right.
And so I didn't even think about it. Now, listen, at this point in my life, in my career, I played the good guy over and over and over. I mean, I'm not saying if somebody's got a film, I won't be the good guy. But what's enjoyable is doing the different things. That's why we saw Clint Eastwood. At one point in his career, he did a comedy.
Yeah.
Every Which Way But Loose, I think, or something. But he had an orangutan in it. Then he did a love story with Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
I mean, he just got so tired of being the tough guy that shoots everybody and kills everybody. And I know that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily for me, my agent told me I got paid more to do one scene with Billy Zane than I used to star in movies. I did a scene where I was just a Japanese businessman, no martial arts in it at all. And it was in a science fiction. I don't know if it'll ever come out. It may already be out. I don't know. But when you just fly in, do one scene and fly out.
Easy.
I may never see the movie. I don't know. Michael Madsen told me that he'll do 20 movies in a year. He doesn't watch the movies. And he said, John, he told me about my career. He said, you're leaving money on the table if all you do is star in one genre. And I go, what are you talking about? Well, now I know. You can make as much, if not more money, just being, quote, what they call character actor. Going in, playing the bad guy.
Sure.
Playing the best friend. What I just did in, I guess it was like about 3 months ago, I got called to play an American Indian. Well, I better get it right. No, it's called Native American. Mm-hmm. And because they don't like being called Indians because that means they're from India. That's why the settlers called them Indians, because they thought they were so dark. They thought they were Indian. They were from India. But you call them Native Americans. And I played a good guy, though. So there was no backlash. There was no Native Americans writing me on Facebook saying, what are you doing taking a job away from a real Indian?
Was it like Billy Jack 6?
No. What?
I really want somebody to reboot that.
Listen, it may. I don't know if it's politically correct, but some Mexican bad guys crossed the border, kidnapped some white women for sex trafficking, and go across the border. And a sheriff. This is set in the West, the Wild West. Sure. A sheriff gets together a posse, but they need, of course, their Indian scout to tell them where the bad guys went. So I'm down there looking at the hoofs and telling them, we're going to go here. And I don't even know how to ride a horse. They asked me in the beginning, how are you with horses? And I said, well, I'm not scared of them, or I'll get on one. I'll do whatever you want. But the shooting was so fast. They didn't have time for me to learn how to ride when we're doing, like, the scene is written, and we'd ride up, three guys, a sheriff and another guy, me, and we stop. I look at the ground. I point where we're going. I tell them we got to go this way. So you got to make that horse stop, move over this way, do this. And my horse had to be in the lead. So here's what they do, though. This is in Arizona a couple of months ago. That horse only works with actors. That's what these horses, there's a facility in Phoenix where I guess everybody goes. All the stuntmen came from there.
Oh, wow.
And I'd never made a Western, so I didn't know they have these areas of the country where just Western towns, Western outfits, all you could ever want, or it's right there. All you got to do is fly in your actors from LA, put them in a hotel, and you're in Texas or whatever.
Oh, what a riot!
Yeah. So the horse, after like 2 rehearsals, it knew what to do and it just did it. I mean, my hands were on the reins, but I didn't make it go left or right. And it positioned itself. It stopped. It hit the mark right where it's supposed to. And I did my dialogue. I looked at the ground and I told him, what I was supposed to say. And yeah, the horse was a better actor than me. Let's put it that way.
That's a riot. That's so. I had no idea. But it makes sense. Horses are smart. They're
trained.
I grew up riding horses. They like to have a plan. They like to know where they're going. I totally get it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? His plan was don't rely on the actor for the screen direction. We rehearsed it a couple of times. The horse knew what to do, and he just repeated it. I think it was a she. Actually, she just repeated it. But that saved me though, because otherwise, and our producer's not mad at me because I guess I gave him the impression that you put me on a horse and I'll just be riding. And because I said I have no fear of them, which I didn't.
Sure.
But I didn't realize that, it's not like riding a bicycle.
That could be the next Pixar film, a Western from the perspective of the horse actors.
Well, you know what? Jeremy, you probably won't see me in many Westerns.
I think that's it? One and done?
Well, yeah. I'm first of all, I'm Japanese. I mean, they probably should get a Native American. I'm sure there's some Native American actors, but you know what though? I think the director had used me in another movie, and like I said before, I became what they call a recognizable name in the show business.
Yeah,
not a box office star. I'm not Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, but people recognize me if they see a great portion of martial art action fans, of course, would.
Of course.
I'm 68 now. There's not a lot of Stallone is reviving some of the older action stars, and he was Expendables, which I'm trying to do something like that. But the truth is, action stars should be in their 20s to mid 30s, and that's when I did most of my films.
Yeah.
When I was in my mid 30s, and but 68, I mean,
it's never too late.
Listen. There are roles like Liam Neeson in Taken.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington in The Equalizer.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Reacher is a kind of a franchisable character that, not older though. Tom Cruise is still pretty young. I guess he's in he's not a 20-something guy.
No, he's early to mid 50s now?
I don't want to age him. It might be late 40s, maybe. But it's been around a while. And I believe, if well written, like, what was the one? The Unforgiven? Clint Eastwood was old when he played that. But he played it. You know what? Here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to do the plastic surgery and the dye my hair and try to play the 25-year-old kickboxing up-and-comer. I'll play the coach, the trainer, the mentor to the kickboxer or whatever. There are roles that fit me in my age. But there's not a single kick or punch that I threw in the 90s that I couldn't throw today.
And I think that's an important piece. You look at a movie like Balboa, right? Which
I haven't seen that.
It's what is that? The sixth Rocky film. It's the one he plays.
It's another Rocky coming out. Wow.
Plays with Milo Ventimiglia. And the whole premise is he's later in age. I don't know that they actually quantify how old he is. They might. And he has to train and fight differently.
Oh, of course.
He's going to go into this exhibition match, and
that's turning a negative into a positive.
I think that there's something to that. I've seen you on the mats. I've had the opportunity to be on the mats quite a bit with Bill Wallace, and seen a number of folks, your contemporaries, and like you said, there's nothing that you can't still do.
Well,
and I think calling it...
I'm not the fighter I was, but I'm saying for movies, because look, Keanu Reeves can do movies. Anybody can. I tell people I take no self-pride for my movies as a fight scene, because you rehearse, and if it doesn't look good, you just you edit it out, and you get a different view, and those things are not like I'm proud that I did these fight scenes. No, I'm proud that I was a light heavyweight champion for 10 years. I held the title for 10 years, WKA. And I didn't go out a loser. I came out of retirement my last time, won 3 more fights. And then I retired for the last time, 2002. So I fought for 28 years.
Sure.
And that's a long career for a
long
kickboxer.
Career.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring, but I hope you don't underestimate the inspiration of movies, to see someone. Why was Clint Eastwood so popular so late? Because there are a lot of guys who aren't 20 or 30 looking and saying, okay, where's our representation? Oh, here's a guy who's been doing it, and we can aspire to be him.
He turned it to a positive. He made his character, he couldn't see the bad guys. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And he hands the gun. I don't know if you saw The Unforgiven, but he hands it to the black actor. You know who I'm talking about. But anyway, he couldn't take the shot because he couldn't see the guy well enough. And so instead of being Oh, they did a movie about astronauts where they got these old astronauts together. Do you remember that one? James Garner, I think, and Donald Sutherland.
Nope.
But anyway,
sure.
You got to take the negative things of aging and make it part of the script.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, my character might not be as fast as he was or even not be as strong. But then he uses his internal strength to overcome the bad guys or, in some way, shape, or form. I think that's the way you work in older actor in a action film is you let the positive thing. Well, I've got a script right now dealing with that. It's called it was originally called Blood Rain, but they're changing the name to The Dependables. Obviously, you know why.
I have no idea why.
It's like this: blood sport, blood fist.
Right.
Now, you don't have to wonder what kind of movie mine's going to be.
No.
And you don't have to wonder about the Expendables because what it is all the B movie guys have agreed to do the movie. Because we all know if it's successful, we can do like Expendables. We'll have a franchise.
Right. Can you share names
of other folks? Billy Blanks, Michael Dudikoff, Cynthia Rothrock, Richard Norton, Olivier Gruner. They've all said, yeah, we're on board. When you get ready. Yeah. And it's I'll tell you the gist of it.
Please.
We older actors are trained. We're the instructors at the SWAT unit for LAPD at the police department. Mm-hmm. We're training a group of young, soon to be SWAT unit members, and we go to the station. We're watching films and things, and all of a sudden, there's a terrorist attack downtown LA. The real SWAT unit gets called, and they rush down to LA to handle this terrorist attack. Bombs will go off in downtown LA. And what happens is it's a cover for a bank robbery. Mm. Hostages taken, lives at risk, like I think two hostages have been killed already, whatever. But it comes in. So this is a life or death thing, and they can't pull the people off of the terrorist attack. So the old instructors are there with young cadets. We order the young cadets not to come to try to help us, but they want to help us, of course. And as old guys, we load up with our equipment, get in a van, and we go to stop these bank robbers before they kill all the hostages or whatever. And what ends up happening is, of course, the young guys come to help us. They show up, breaking their orders, and we chase the bad guys out of the building, and they run into an abandoned building, ready for a big shootout with us. And the building's full of vampires. And now it becomes humans versus vampires. So the bank robbers and the cops join forces to fight the vampires. And I don't want to give away the whole story.
Hey, that's quite a plot twist.
Well, this is the idea of it. Look, I was taught by Roger Corman. We did 12 movies together. He's the most prolific producer in history. 300 movies, and I did 12 of them. And so I did more than anybody else. I think David Carradine was second with 8 movies. Okay. But anyway, he taught me how to take an idea that has been successful for the studios and then do a version of that and get a piece of that audience. Because you won't ever make a movie that loses money because it's already proven that the concept is financially, commercially successful. And so this one is based on a movie called Dusk to Dawn.
Yeah.
Tarantino wrote the script. He's in the movie as well. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it's a normal movie about these criminals trying to get across the border and go into Mexico. And they stop at a bar.
Yep.
And at that bar at midnight, a bunch of the people turn into vampires and kill all the humans.
It's a classic.
Right. Well, the structure of this is similar. When you start the movie, there's no hint whatsoever it's going to be a horror film in the end. It's a typical cop action thing with all these B movie guys. I think it's going to excite everybody because everybody's on board. All the B movie guys you ever saw in the 80s.
Sounds
90s,
like a lot of fun.
They'll all be in it, but they'll be in it as age appropriate, as instructors at the police academy, and teaching these young people that want to be SWAT. They aspire to be what we was the real SWAT unit of the LAPD. And it's a kind of a Roger Corman concept. It's not going to get nominated for any Oscars, but it's going to be highly commercial because I believe their nostalgia. Look, the Karate Kid. They did the Cobra Kai. They got all the old fans watching it because I watched the first episode, which was great. I don't watch TV though, so I can't say I kept following it, but I know it was successful. At one time, it was the number one show on Netflix, and that's an old concept, right? And they got back Ralph Macchio on it. I think they even got Martin Kove in that thing. They dug Martin Kove out.
Everybody.
Well, they got them all back. If Pat Morita was alive, he'd have been in it. If he was alive.
Absolutely.
So I think this nostalgia has a value. There, you can't do the exact same thing you did in the past, but you can take some of the concepts of it. Like our characters will all be heroic. And in fact, some of the B movie guys, I told them though, there's only so many jobs the cops can do. The bad guys have to be also badasses. So several of the B movie stars will be the bad guys, and they will not be in the sequels. Yeah. Just like Van Damme, I think was the bad guy in one of the Expendables, right?
Yep.
Well, he's not in any of this. I think did he get killed off? I'm not sure. I don't remember if he died.
It's been a few years. My memory for movies isn't great.
Their formula is not to expose the bad guys as action stars and then use them over and over. It's
so what's next with this concept? Like, when might we see it come to life?
We're raising the money right now.
Okay,
I was with the attorneys literally last weekend in Florida.
Awesome.
Because the money is coming from a group of investors that are actually they're music people. Huh. And their idea is this: Don Wilson movies get, and they do. I get worldwide distribution. Every country, from Turkey to, weird countries, they all take my movies. And if these music producers put their clients' music in the movie, their clients' music will be heard all over the world. Now, that's hard to do with the music, but with my movies, instantaneously.
That makes sense.
We just have to make sure it's appropriate for the scene. You can't. I can't walk into a rap club and they're playing country western. Right. So it's going to be, but it's, I never realized it's an attorney, and a guy who's he's got maybe 8 Grammy nominations or something. I don't know how many he's won, but, they came up with the idea. I wish I could say the financing of films. So they've raised up some money. And that's how we're going to make the movie. That's the movie. I told them that's the movie we should do first is The Dependables, because it
sounds fun.
In my opinion, it's for sure going to be a moneymaker because all the buyers from all over the world. I'm bigger in other countries than I am in America by far.
I've heard that, and I want to take that opportunity to go back. You talked about, I think you said 6 fights in Hong Kong.
Yeah, and I fought in Berlin, fought in Rome.
You managed to establish a fight career globally in a way that I'm not aware of people outside of, we've got some limited examples in MMA today. We've had some professional boxers over the years, but most of the people, when we talk about fights and titles, it's North American centric. How did you do that? How did you become global?
The fighter's hometown. He's the main event. And he's from Miami, the fights are going to be in Miami.
Right.
Vegas is the only place where actual fighters will uproot themselves and go and live there. Because, they that's where their big fights are.
Yeah.
Vegas, but, here's what happened with me. And this kind of many champions probably had the same thing. When I first won the title, other fighters around the world have promoters promoting them in, let's say, Amsterdam and in Berlin. I fought in Berlin, the German champion in Berlin, the British champion in London, the Italian champion in Rome. That's how I got my reputation. The Thai champion in my weight division, anyway, in Bangkok. I beat them in their hometowns because I had to knock them out. I did not. First of all, they were great fighters. Nobody put me up. Once you win the world title, you don't fight the easy guys anymore. The guys that are like 22-5 or something. No, you fight the undefeated fighters or the number one contenders and other champions. I think the number was 12 other world champions. Like Murray Smith. I beat him. Dennis Alexio, the heavyweight champion. I beat him. Oaktree Edwards, world champion. James Waring, IBF boxing champion and kickboxing champion. I beat many other champions, as well as number one contenders, as well as top 10 fighters. And I'm one of the only ones that, I was the first Kung Fu stylist to win a world title in kickboxing. That's one of my claims to fame. But also, I lasted longer than any other pro fighter. I started in 74, and my last fight was 2002. That's 28 years.
It's a long time.
Well, for a sport where you elbow each other in the face, knee,
for
it's
sure.
all striking. Look, I would have loved to have done MMA, because if the guy gets you in an arm bar or something, you just tap out and then no injuries. But my sport, we call that quitting. You're supposed to struggle and make him snap your elbow. And in kickboxing, you fight till you're unconscious. There's no tapping out or that's called quitting. We call that quitting. Yeah. When things are going south of the border for you in the fight, you just go, you know what? I'll fight you next month. I'm done tonight. I'm going home. We don't do that. We are expected to fight until we're unconscious, basically. Then they forgive us. But listen, if you get kicked in the leg, I fought broken ribs, broken jaw, broken noses, broken hands. I had 2 broken hands in one fight. But if I'd have just stopped and just quit and walked out of the ring, they'd be booing me.
What's your mindset in a fight with 2 broken hands? You've got to be thinking about quitting at that point. It's not good
for my opponent. It's not good, because my mindset is listen, it's not the norm, because I was like a wounded animal. Now, they tell you if an animal's wounded, right, it crawls into a hole and it's got a bad leg or something, don't stick your hand in there, because a wounded animal will fight harder. Yeah. And that's the way I was. If I sustained an injury in the ring, my instinct is to give back more punishment to my opponent. In other words, that's like throwing a fuel into a fire. Yeah. For me, I think my whole career, it was 28 years. And believe me, I had fear in my heart when I got into the ring in the beginning. First of all, we thought that if you got kicked in the head, you might die. So it's a little scary. The first we call it full contact karate, Jerry. We didn't even call it kickboxing. It was so new in America. It was 1974. And they had the first fights that the PKA put on, was on TV. And my brother saw that, and he wanted to promote the first fights on the East Coast, which was Orlando, Florida. And he asked me if I'd do it. I said, yeah. But we thought, first of all, we fought on a concrete floor. So now think about it. If you get knocked out, you're knocked out when you're up. Now my head is 6 feet in the air. That means if I fall down, I'm going to bounce on that concrete with my head 6 feet. Now you drop a watermelon 6 feet. What's going to happen when it hits the concrete? It's
going to smash.
Well, that's what would have happened to us. Thank God we were so inexperienced. Nobody knocked anybody out. Because after that, they fought on mats. And then after the mats, we figured out you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Boxing already had a ring with a elevated platform so people could see it better, right? Because when you're fighting on a mat, you're looking dead on it, and you get a few rows back, you can't see anything. So anyway, we in the professional martial arts arena, pro kickboxers, we're the first professional fighters in martial arts, because they added grappling, and now we have MMA. So you just took kickboxing and added grappling. And listen, there have been many kickboxing champions who became UFC champions. Not kickboxers, strikers. Strikers like Machida and Maurice Smith won the UFC. Strikers to translate, you just add some grappling and then they can become world champions. But you haven't seen a UFC champion get in a kickboxing ring and win the world kickboxing title. It is not translatable because when you take away all their grappling, then look, Randy Couture got knocked out in his last fight by a jump front kick. And I've been in kickboxing for since I was 18 years old. I'm 68 now. That's 50 years. I've never seen a white belt jump front kicked in the face and knocked out. So that shows you and Randy's a great fighter. I'm not saying anything. Yeah. I love the guy. I consider him a friend. But his defense was so low. He was both shoulders were square, and he's crouching down. He's looking at Machida. Machida just looks at that, just jump front kicks, knocks him right out. Jump front kick. So you can reach a high level of MMA and still be vulnerable to strikes. It's changing though. We're talking, how many years ago was Machida knocked out Randy Couture? And in those years,
it's only a few.
A lot of strikers got success in the UFC. A lot of them. It's not like Hoist Gracie. I never saw him throw a left hook or an overhand right. I mean, the guy his punches were just what we call arm punches. He just extended them, but they're really not real trained boxing style punches. And certainly no combinations. Hoist didn't know how to throw uppercut, left hook. He could not mix punches up. That's the level, and he was dominating MMA. So that sport has gone from that to guys like who's Silva. He's going to fight Logan Paul, I believe. Silva.
It was this past weekend. Anderson Silva.
Oh, Anderson Silva. I didn't. You know what happened?
Yeah. Paul by decision.
Oh, he won a decision. Oh, okay. Well, Anderson Silva's a little old, and Paul's been in my gym. Yep. Logan Paul and well, I think it was Logan Paul. Logan Paul was in the gym. Those guys are big, strong, husky guys, and they're on the level of beginning pros.
Yeah,
they're not YouTube. They were YouTubers, but every pro was something else before he was a pro boxer, right?
They've been putting in the time for sure.
Right. They've got good guys around them too. And you know what? They're not making nickels and dimes. When they come up to the gym, 6 cars line up, and it's a Corniche, it's a Rolls, it's a Jag, it's a Ferrari, and yeah, that's how their entourage pulls into the driveway of the boxing gym that I train at in Woodland Hills. And they're making money. I believe that he grossed $65 million when he fought Ben Askren. I believe he was a former UFC fighter, wrestler.
Yep.
And he knocked him out in the first round.
Yep.
But I think Logan Paul, the event, grossed $65 million.
Yeah, they're pulling in a lot of money, and they're, love them or hate them, love the business side of it or not.
I'm getting offers to participate.
It's pulling people into a sport as spectators that would not otherwise watch it. People need a story. They need to have an emotional connection to somebody in the ring.
This is a version of championship wrestling, but it's real.
Yes.
It's real. I really believe they are trying to win their opponents. There have been recently a few boxing matches where some boxing people in the gym, I don't train in a martial art gym. I train in a boxing gym. And they felt they were like fixed fights. Now, I'm going to tell you about the greatest fighter and I'm the biggest fan of his. But I tell you right now, I guarantee you that it's a fixed fight. Fixed fights do happen. It's a business, and it's a money-making business.
Yep, there's a lot of money.
Muhammad Ali was a world champion. He decides he's going to fight Leon Spinks. Leon Spinks has 8 pro fights when he fights Muhammad Ali. Ali fights them, I think it was still 15 rounds. He goes 15 rounds. He doesn't have a fat lip, doesn't have a broken nose, but he loses a decision. He got paid $5 million. In the rematch, he was guaranteed another 5. So he turned that fight, and he knew that's the one guy he knew he could beat. How can a guy with 8 pro fights beat Muhammad Ali? And if you do, you got to really hurt, without
a lucky knockout. Yeah.
No, with the distance he lost. Muhammad Ali lost a decision.
Right,
to
that's
Leon
my point.
Spinks.
Like anybody can get a lucky shot. 1 in a million.
Yeah, that can happen. But that's not in this case. I believe Ali looked at it as a business decision. He said, you know what? Who is it I could fight? He's got a name, and people would pay to see it, and I could lose, and then get my title back one more time. And Leon Spinks got the phone call from hey, you're going to fight for the world title, Muhammad Ali, on his 9th pro fight. I mean, because Ali, when you're the champion, like me, when I was, I pick who I get a shot at me and the title, right?
Yeah.
I pick them. It's not like I will say this: the number one contender, you have to fight him every year because you just get pushed by the association, WKA. They're pushing me because they know. Well, when I defended it against an undefeated fighter, Dennis Alexio, he sold that fight, the package, to NBC Sports World.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot bigger than ESPN, especially back then in 1984 when we did it. ESPN, I fought the first fight on ESPN.
Did you really?
First fight, yeah, 1979. Yeah, and then they liked it so much they had a fight on every week on ESPN. But
cool.
But anyway, I'm gonna say they forced me, but yeah, they did
encourage.
They told me I had to defend it. They'll strip you of your title if you run from them. I don't think in 1 year, but I didn't want to run from anybody, so I fought Alexio. I had the flu and I took off. Sorry.
It's okay.
My phone fell.
It's all right.
Okay, am I back on? Yeah,
we're on.
So
we didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I was kind of like pressured into fighting Dennis Alexio when I had the flu, and I beat him. And then he was off to rematch with me. He turned it down, and he gained weight. He became a heavyweight.
Why do you think?
Everybody knew I was sick. Everybody knew I was sick, and I beat him 12 rounds. We fought 12 rounds, and I beat him with the flu.
Do you think that's why this recognition that I can't even beat this guy when he's got the flu? I'm definitely not going to beat him if he's
right. I that's what I believe, because what I did was not physically beat him up, because you don't have to do that. It's a sport. You just have to score more strikes on his target areas, the body and the head, and I kick the legs. Matter of fact, he couldn't walk after the fight. They had to carry him around. I kicked his legs. But there are rules in the fight as well. You have to throw 8 kicks every round. That's what the rule was in 1984. Well, when you kick his leg, he couldn't get his kicks in. 2 rounds, he got like 4 kicks in one of them, and then I guess he missed 2. So he lost the fight point-wise just from not throwing enough kicks.
And that was your strategy going in?
It was my strategy. I crowded him after I got my kicks in, and then I kicked him in the lead leg, and I damaged it so he couldn't really use his left leg, basically. And I'm not saying anything derogatory about Dennis, but
no.
I tell people I beat him with my IQ. I just out-thought him in the fight.
Isn't that the case with the best fighters? Don't people often talk about the best fighters as being very intelligent?
He was. But Dennis was one of the better fighters, though. So he was not stupid. He had a game plan like Tyson. Tyson, the bell rings every round. He's going to try to knock you out. And guess what? Most guys he knocks out. Alexio, same way. Bell rings. He goes forward. He tries to knock you out. He's got 12 rounds to do it. That's his game plan. 9 times out of 10, he does knock people out. But that wasn't mine. If plan A doesn't work, I go to plan B. If plan B doesn't work, I go to plan C. I would adapt. And they say Mayweather does that. That Mayweather has certain things he does consistently, but he will crowd guys, avoid them, tie them up. He will use all the tools he has strategically to win fights over and over and over. And he's been able to beat a lot of people, from Pacquiao to Oscar De La Hoya, to all the guys in his weight division. You don't duck the big names, because that's where you make all your money, right? You don't duck them. And I didn't duck them in my weight division. I fought all the top guys.
What made you come out of retirement?
The money. Okay. And, a lot of people said, Don, you're fighting for the wrong reason. I said, no, that's the only reason. What they did was this. They offered me, they called up. Well, first of all, they sent something that was from Revolution Productions. Now, I've been doing movies for years, so I thought it was a movie company. So I sent the information. They said, we would like to discuss a business opportunity for you. So that didn't sound like a fight to me. So I sent it to my agent. And my agent calls up and he says, Don, this is not a movie. I said, what is it? And he said, it's a fight. They want you to fight. I go, fight? I haven't been in the ring in 10 years. And he goes, well, they want you to fight at heavyweight. And it's the signing bonus, they called it, was $150,000, which means you get it when you sign the contract. And then the offer is 12% of the pay-per-view. Well, I had the same attorney that George Foreman had, so he knows pay-per-view. Henry Holmes is his name. I got him through Chuck Norris. So Henry looks at the contract and says, Don, for a first-time fight on pay-per-view, this is a great contract. He says, you make millions of dollars. And I said, well, I'm in. And I at that time, I really didn't know Dick Kimber that well. I didn't know much about him. because he's a heavyweight. He was up around 220, something like that. And
what were you fighting at prior to this?
175 is my weight.
Big difference.
So what I did was this, and this is a trick I used when I came out of retirement. And now I might as well expose it now because I'm not using it anymore. I said, listen, I'm 175, you're 220. Let's meet in the middle. Let's meet at 195, cruiserweight. And that sounds relatively fair, right? I'll come up 20 pounds, 25 pounds. You come down 20 pounds. Well, it's not fair because I get to eat all I want, lift weights, and they, for the first time in their lives, heavyweights don't diet. He's starving himself. And basically what all three of the guys I fought lost their weight with the rubber suit on, the saunas. They dehydrated themselves, which I don't know if you've ever done it, but I've done it. You drop up to 50% of your skill level. Yeah. You're tired faster, your arms, your body's going to heat up in the middle of the fight because even though you drink the water right after weigh-ins, it's like 24 hours before the fight.
It's not
your
the
body
same.
Doesn't absorb it, right? You're substantial. So when I came out of retirement, yes, I was 48 years old, fight 12 rounds, but I was beefed up, full of water, full of protein, and I'm fighting young guys, 25 years old. Dewey Cooper was 25 years old. I fought him at the MGM. Solid muscle. He was weak as a baby. Yeah. He's weak as a baby. So I can't brag about, I won 3 fights. Well,
I won.
But there's a fight in and out of the ring, right? Yeah. I won by not cheating, but getting them to agree to meet in the middle was necessary. If I'd fought Dick Kimber, I knocked him out in 3 rounds, but I believe at his 215, 220, solid, eating, lifting weights, it wouldn't have been the same kind of fight for me. Let's put it that way.
That would have been a heck of a lot more difficult. But, I love that there are some pretty well-established martial arts principles in what you're saying. Get them to fight your fight, if possible.
Correct. Right.
Prepare, right? Fight smart. I mean, we've got these threads coming through where did you ever take a fight you didn't think you could win?
Never.
And was that out of because
confidence? Even when I had no reason to feel confidence, I always felt. Now listen, thinking you're going to win every fight doesn't mean you won every fight. I got 5 losses on my record. 4 of those losses, though, in my mind, I won those. It was like hometown decisions. If you don't knock the guy out, I learned that early on. He's going to get the decision. Yeah. I fought the British champion in England or London, German champion in Berlin, Italian champion in Rome. Do you think I'm going to get the decision? If it's anywhere close, there's no way. It's the promoter, and they want me there just because to build up their local guy. That's why I'm getting the money. But when the guy's, I said, when the guy's laying on the floor counting and he's knocked out, I mean, there's no decision. There's no cheating you.
I've heard it said there's no politics in a knockout.
Correct. But it's a lot of pressure to have on when you're doing the bell ring because the guy is good and they are good. Ferdinand Mack was a great fighter, and it's a 10-round fight. I end up knocking him out in the 9th round. So that's cutting pretty close, right? Sure. And I didn't knock him out. It was a 3 knockdown rule was in effect, and I hit him in the body, which he was not expecting because I kept all my punches to the head, tapping him the body a little bit, but I didn't concentrate. And then in the 9th round, I went down to his body. I dropped him 3 times, all body shots in the same round, and I won a decision. Now I'm in Berlin. There's 10,000 Germans screaming, and all of a sudden, dead silence. He's on the floor. And then what was odd was this. This is 1989. I hear some cheering for me. And I'm thinking, well, who the heck are these Germans? So when I came out of the ring, it was before the fall of the Berlin Wall, and they were soldiers. We have American soldiers who were stationed in Berlin. And they were going, Mr. Wilson, you won me a lot of money because the German fans of this German fighter all bet the American soldiers that I was going to get my rear end kicked. And the American soldiers, they didn't know me, but they bet on the American. I came out there wearing red, white, and blue. And so when I knocked them out, those guys collected their money. They're German pro. What could the German guys say? the guy's on the floor. It says you can't even argue about the decision.
Right.
And anyway, it was a good feeling for me to get the pat on the back from our troops because they were winning money. Because I sure if it was flipped the other way, like, oh man, you just lost me a month worth of pay.
You talked about why you took your first fight, to help your brother promote. But
yeah, but I wanted to experience real fighting too.
Is that why you kept going? In these kind of early days.
Look. Yes, my brother wanted to promote it, but look, we didn't know that if you could have a career like that. I was 18 years old. I was in college. I was an engineering major. And I lost my first fight. I broke my hand. It cost me more than I got paid. I got $100 for the fight, by the way. But the emergency room was more expensive to reset my hand. And so I lost money, lost the fight, got injured, and loved it. It was so exciting. People said, well, what's the difference? I said, well, we did point fighting. Everybody had point fighting. That goes back in the 60s, Chuck Norris's days. But that's like touch football compared to NFL. It's the feeling you get when you're a pro fighter and you're actually knocking guys out and you're in danger of being knocked out. The thrill, the excitement is light years beyond like playing flag football with your friends. And that's what it is. It's the difference between Super Bowl and flag football with your friends. The point fighting was good and it does improve you to a certain degree, but it's not the same. It's not the same kind of dedication and enjoyment that you get from the sport that you get when you really are knocking each other out. And I'm sure these MMA guys like the submission because I wrestled in college, by the way. Of all the sports I did, that was the one I took to the fastest was wrestling. I was the MVP of my high school football team and the MVP of my high school basketball team. I ran track, threw the discus, shot put, ran the high hurdles, sprint medley. I was an overall athlete.
Yeah.
And I did in college what the athletic director said is impossible. He said, son, I said, what sports do you have? He said, well, we got basketball, but the team's already picked. And I said, well, because I had no money to go to college. I said, well, what other sport? He said, well, we got wrestling. Which you know how to wrestle? And I said, no, but I'll try out. He goes, son, nobody starts a sport at the collegiate level. Like the first day you touch a basketball, you're going for the basketball team. You want to try out in college basketball. Well, I'd never wrestled, but the thing is this. I was an athlete, and my incentive to get that scholarship was my college degree. I was not going to be an engineer. My whole goal was to become an engineer.
And how long had you been doing Kung Fu at that point?
2 years. So I done Kung Fu, but Kung Fu is not collegiate wrestling. It's a different sport. It's leverage. You got to be strong. And man, we starved each other. We dehydrated. That's how I learned to lose weight the right way because I was doing it the wrong way in the beginning. I used to take X-Laxes yes. And what happened was I stopped because of this. I was sitting in a movie theater and all of a sudden my back started hurting. And I'm 18 years old. My back was hurting so bad I had to leave the movie theater, go to a doctor. Now, when you're 18, you go to a doctor, you got to really be bad off because we're invulnerable at that age. Yep. But I went to a doctor because my back hurt so bad. And he couldn't figure out what it was. He couldn't. And then he says, tell me about your life. Tell me what you're doing. And I told him that I was taking this X-Lax. And he goes, well, that's it. He goes, it's not your back. It's your kidneys. Yeah. He said, everything's going through them and you're destroying your kidneys, literally. And luckily, I was 18 years old and everything, to my knowledge, I rebuilt everything. Everything's normal for me. But yeah, I damaged myself doing everything wrong to lose weight in college. That's why I believe as a fighter, I fought in 4 different weight divisions. I won world titles in 4 different weight divisions: middleweight, light heavyweight, super light heavyweight, cruiserweight.
And what's the bounds on that for people who aren't fight fans?
It's generally, I don't know. I guess you can say 10 to 15 pounds difference each one.
Okay, so the low end of middleweight is
for light heavyweight as opposed to light heavyweight. I believe it was. By the way, it was invented on the Dennis Alexio fight because it was the day before the fight. He couldn't make weight, so the promoter didn't want to cancel an NBC Sports World contract and all that money. And the promoter happened to be the association president, which is illegal in boxing, If you're the president of the association, you can't be a promoter. But now Dana White, and now we just got thrown that out the door. So the actual association president invented a new weight division called super light heavyweight. And he said, you and Dennis are going to fight for that title. And so he said, this is really good for you, Don. And I go, why is it good for me? I'm 173. He's 182. And he said, because if you lose, you still got your light heavyweight title. And if you win, you get another world title. That's how the promoter sold to. And I looked at him, I said, look, I don't want any other titles. I'm prepared to fight and defend my 175, but now I got to fight a cruiserweight. That's basically what Alexio was. So what ended up happening is Alexio realized he's no 175 pounder, and he just gained weight and became a heavyweight champion. Yeah. That's what he did. He just started putting on weight. And because it's a lot easier to put it on than it is to take it off, especially as we all get older, right? It's
I haven't figured out how to get younger.
Yeah, it becomes more difficult. And so that's what happened with the Dennis Alexio fight, which I never say anything bad about my opponents because that doesn't aggrandize me. They were good. Waring was good. Maurice Smith. Bronco Sikatic was first K1 winner. I mean, these guys were dangerous and good, and I still beat them. So if I call them all bums, then I didn't do much, right? That's why
your time in the ring speaks for itself.
Why don't I understand the mentality of guys who put down their opponents? You know, say that they're wimps and they can't fight, they can't punch, they can't kick.
Is it part of what we were talking about before, creating a story? Is it part of the
they do it for fun. I can't believe that Conor McGregor really believed Khabib was not a great fighter. You can just watch the guy; he's great. And by the way, he beat Conor McGregor, right? Yep. Now, if he beats you, all the bad mouthing you said about him makes you look bad, right? I mean, and if he's so bad, if he's such a wimp, and he's such a quitter, why are you even fighting then, right? It's really. I never did that. And Benny Urquidez, I talked to him. I said, Benny, you know how the fighters badmouth each other today? I wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't have anything personal against anybody I ever fought. And Benny said the same thing to me. He said, well, you know, Don, they did make more money than we did because they got on that championship wrestling. He said, but he said, I wouldn't feel comfortable either just doing it.
And I think it's reflective of at the time that you came in, and, you know, we've had folks on the show who, you know, Bill and others who were there.
We were traditional martial artists.
You were martial artists, and first and foremost, and that attitude, whether you were on TV or at a competition or just
bow to each other. We don't spit on each other. Right. You bow to your opponent. You show him respect. You respect his instructor and his style and his. It was a different time, and I know that it's promotional, and it's. More people are going to watch it. Like if you hear that I'm fighting Van Damme, more people will watch it if they hear us badmouth each other.
Right.
It's just, if I say what I really believe, well, you know what? If I say what I really believe, he's going to consider it badmouthing because he's never had a pro fight, as far as I know. He claims he was a world champion, but he doesn't. In an interview, he said he couldn't remember the association that gave him his world title. How can you not? It's because there is no association.
Every fighter I've ever talked to knows details of every round of every fight.
Yeah. Everybody knows your opponents. Look, Frank Dukes is going around. He's saying that he wants to fight me, but I ducked him and all that. First of all, Frank Dukes, he says he's 330-0, but he can't give you one name of one opponent because it's secret. He's sworn to secrecy. Yet he made a movie about it. He can make a movie about it, but can't tell you the names of his opponents.
The way you mentioned the thing about Van Damme, is that something that might happen?
Oh, absolutely. He's already agreed. Van Damme had a guy that he works out with contact me and say his guarantee to fight me was $3 million. If he gets $3 million, he'll sign the contract, and he will negotiate a percentage of the pay-per-view. That's up to him and his attorneys and his representation, but he will agree. He wants $3 million up front, and it could happen because let me tell you, we will sell worldwide. You know this guy, Logan Paul, those guys.
Yeah,
they don't sell in Germany and Italy,
right.
and all over the world, but me and Van Damme would. I'm saying the pay-per-view operators in those countries would just buy the rights from whoever has the rights in America.
That would have a chance if it was promoted right of being the biggest pay-per-view of all time.
Me and Van Damme fighting they're doing 8 rounds, but why not 12? That's what I'm used to fighting. And if he claims he's a world champion, world champions fight 12. I haven't heard him say it in a long time, but he did say it in the 80s, and it was even on one of the Bloodsport posters, undefeated middleweight champion. And I tell people, he is undefeated. When you've never had one pro fight, you got no losses.
How would you prepare for something like that?
Same way I always do. Same thing. First cardio, running 6 miles, 9 miles a day, jumping rope. I jump rope for an hour straight. I get my cardio up because I don't have to learn anything. And watching him fight, he's got no fights to watch. And I don't believe that stuff anyway, because you know what? If you think you're worried about the guy's right hand, you see him, he's knocked out 6 guys with the right hand. He might, while you're looking for that right hand, he might throw the left hook and knock you right out. So I don't put a lot of stock in in self-defense. If a guy throws a beer at you in a nightclub, how much do you know about his fighting style? Nothing. So as a martial artist, we have to be able to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. And I just took that with me into the kickboxing ring. I watch them a little bit, but for me, the actual experience of being in the ring with them, checking how fast they are, the reflexes, that means more. I can analyze the fighter faster that way than studying them. Spend 100 hours watching tapes. In the first couple of minutes of the fight, I'll know everything I need to know. And because we have a feeling out process. Most experienced fighters, maybe guys like Benny Urquidez, they say, "Oh, they slow starters." No, we're going 100% in the first round, but I'm doing more watching than I am striking. And I tell people I throw up a smoke screen. They go, "What do you mean smoke screen?" I said, "I'll throw stuff. The guys think I'm trying to hit them, and that is not what I'm trying to do. I will do that for 3 or 4 rounds. I call it rocking the baby to sleep, because by the 5th round, the guy hasn't been stunned. I haven't hit him with a solid body shot. I haven't stunned. He gets a feeling of like he's safe in the ring. And that's how I knock guys out. I got 48 knockouts. Most fighters with 48 knockouts, they would say, "Oh, he's a knockout fighter." Marciano, I think he had 49. But people call me a technician because during the fighting, I don't get punched in the face. I mean, I've had 12-round fights where the leather of my opponent's glove never touched the skin of my face. So I don't take punches to give them. I come from the traditional point fighting where you don't let a guy touch you. And when guys crowd me, I close the gap. I go closer to them. Because I tell people, if you step back, like against Bronco Sikic, everybody ran for him because he knocked out 20 straight guys. If you go away, he's used to going forward. He can still put as much, if not more, power into his punch. But I would start to step back. He would step forward. Then I moved forward. And when it was like a 1, 2, 3, I step back. He comes forward chasing me. Then I come forward on that 3rd move. He's thrown off. All of a sudden, he's ready for that big right hand, and my head is here on his chest. And now, for a split second, he's disoriented, and then that's when I was landing punches on him. I knocked. He was undefeated, European champion, and I knocked him out in the 7th round. It took 6 rounds to rock that baby to sleep. When he felt comfortable, he charged me, put me up against the ropes, threw 3 right hands. I threw a right hook, ruptured his eardrum, broke his jaw. When he hit the ground, he broke his nose. 1 punch.
Was there anybody from that era that you wanted to fight, but it didn't happen?
Many.
Yeah?
Many.
Any names that we might recognize?
I had fight offers, but Rob Common. Rob Common was a great fighter. We should have fought. We were in around the same weight division. They offered me a fight with him. But it was less money than I was getting to fight easy guys in America. So I said, no, the money's not right. If the money had been right, I would have gone, fought it. Wouldn't have mattered because, like I said, my ultimate goal as a martial artist was to improve myself as a martial artist. So fighting the best guys is how you improve. Now, secondarily, I want to make as much money as I can. So that's the reason why I fight with me and Rob Common. I will say this, Ernesto Hoost, I didn't fight him. He's one of the guys he was called Mr. Perfect. He was one of K1 champions. Ernesto Hoops fought Bronco Sigatic and got knocked out twice.
Hmm.
So I didn't feel as much pressure against Ernesto because I said, I knocked out the guy that knocked him out. And I said that once he was in England. We were in England together making appearances. And he goes, why did you back out of the fight with me? I said, what fight with you? So I never agreed to fight you. And he goes, why? They had the posters printed and everything. Well, I said, well, okay, somebody might have printed some posters, but I'd never had a fight with you to back out. And I said, why would I back out with you when I knocked the guy out that knocked you out twice? And I said it right in front of the big crowd. And he had nothing to say. But there's not much he can't say, right? He got knocked out twice by Bronco Sigatic. Bronco Sigatic got the courage to come to Florida and fight me in my hometown, Orlando, and I knocked him out. Now, if I'd have just won a close decision against Bronco, there'd been a question. To this day, people would be saying, maybe Don didn't win, maybe he did, and maybe, because the local judging and all that kind of crap. But when the guy is, like I said, well, it's not a nice term. I call it flopping like a fish on the floor, there's no arguing. There's no arguing, and there wasn't for Bronco,
Who was your favorite fighter to watch?
Johnny Terrio.
Why?
Great defense. Everybody talks about his offense, and he has I don't know, you could check this, Google it maybe. He probably has the best knockout record in the history of kickboxing, Johnny Terrio. But that's not the part of it that his defense was great. I mean, he never, he's like, if you ever watched Alexis Arguello, Alexis has worked my corner before. I knew him. He's from Miami. Well, he lived in Miami. But Johnny Terrio had a great defense, did take a lot of punishment, knocked a lot of guys out. And under his rules, the rules that he fought under, full contact style, he was probably the best. Now, I fought him, and they called it a draw, 12-round draw. I felt I outpointed him. But under that style of fighting, especially since my fight just before that was a Thai kickboxing match in Hong Kong, 2 months before, I did something he didn't do. I went and I fought Muay Thai, Japanese kickboxing, and full contact style, which is the Western style. He was better than me at that, I believe, even though they called it a draw, even though I did feel like I outpointed him. Consistently, he proved that's the style of kickboxing he's good at. The style where it's only above the waist. Because, he concentrated on his hands and mainly his right hand. Now, when you throw the right hand, you don't have your weight on the back foot. It's in the lead leg. So as he's throwing it, if you kick that lead leg, you do the damage. Yeah. And if he had fought in Thailand, that's what they would have done. They would have thrown 20 kicks every round at his lead leg. And no matter what he tried to do, you're not going to, you just think about it. If your back leg, your weight is there, you can't throw a real right hand. The weight is, So, Johnny's had a certain set of rules that he was the greatest at. And it was the full contact style. And I will relinquish that style of fighting to him. Some people call me the greatest of all time and all that. You can't tell any of that stuff. That's all conjecture. And it really is. It's fun for people to argue about this.
It is a lot of fun.
Unless you really fight, you don't know what would happen, right?
Yeah.
And Ali used to say this. Ali used to say, I'm the greatest. You know why? And I go, why? And he goes, because if I fight you 10 times, I'll win 6 out of 10. He's not saying he would win every one. And I believe that about Ali, don't you? Don't you think there's not a guy in his day that would beat him 6 out of 10 times. Yeah. He would figure them out. He would outsmart them by the second or third one. I mean, he might make a few mistakes and he'll correct them and then he'll beat you. He's got certain things that he could do better than anybody, and that was moving around the ring. Yep. To this day, you don't see lightweights moving like that. No. On the balls of his feet, just dancing around the ring.
He was fast.
Yes. And then when he would just plant, he scored with the left hand and knocked guys out with right hands. He didn't have the big uppercut like Foreman. He didn't have the big left hook like Frazier. He had the right hand, but he hit guys right on the chin. He hit him on the chin so much they said it was a phantom punch, like with Sonny Liston. But it's not. Real fighters know. I know it takes very little to knock somebody out. If you just land right there. And, the gloves Ali wore were the gloves that I wore in the 70s. They're horsehair. They're not foam padding. They're literally, if you cut them open, there's hair in there. And supposedly it came from a horse. And that's what they stuff them with. So it protects your knuckles, but it really translates into a hard shot on the chin.
Yeah.
They used to have huge cuts on guys like Marciano. I mean, cuts right across their noses and stuff because those gloves are different than the gloves we use today. Yep. It's not that they hit harder then. They hit hard today as much then, but the gloves protect. I think who wants to lose a fight on a cut? I got headbutted accidentally.
Who wants to win a fight on a cut?
I don't. But I got cut myself though once, and it was all coming into my eye. I couldn't see out of my left eye at all. And the referee came over there and took a look at it, and I thought they were going to stop the fight. They're just thinking, I'm going to lose my world title. I'm way ahead on points.
Yeah.
And the guy, and I'm not saying the guy's a dirty fighter. He accidentally headbutted me. I'm pretty sure, 100% sure he accidentally headbutted me. And it might have been even something that I do, because like I told you, I like to close the gap. So I was probably trying to get in real tight, and we bumped heads. But it was going right directly into my eye. And it's weird, all of a sudden you lose your depth perception. Only one. And to me, it didn't, how you think, it's going to go black. To me, it's like gray. It was weird. I never had blood cover my eye where I couldn't see. But that was 1990. And I retired right after that fight because I was afraid, you know what, I'm doing these movies and I don't need the money. I got, in fact, the time that I take to get in shape to fight back then, I'd lose money. And, when you do something and you lose money or cost you money, it's not a career. It's called a hobby. Right. Kickboxing, because it wasn't making me big money, and the movies, because it was,
became your hobby.
I've made millions of dollars as an actor, believe it or not, and of course I spend it like everybody else as fast as possible.
Well, sure. Got to keep the economy going.
But even at the B movies, I would do 5 movies a year. And you can do the math. And I get $220,000 a film. 20 would go my agent. I get $200,000, and they all made a profit because it's all about video. And the videos were being rented. People would go every weekend to the video stores to see what they're going to watch that weekend. And if I had 5 movies in 13 months, I released once. Released 5 movies in 13 months. Entertainment Weekly came to me and said they wanted to do an article because, to their knowledge, no actor in America has ever done that. But video didn't exist, right? That's why. And Tom Cruise doesn't need 5 movies in 13 months. Actually, they were calling it 5 movies in a year. He shot and released, but it wasn't really that. But Entertainment Weekly said that it was 13 months. But they were all shot in 1 year. But one of them was released the next year. Sure. And nobody does that. Now, as a character actor, you can appear in 20 movies, like Michael Madsen will do, and Eric Roberts. But to be the star of one genre, like all martial art movies, which they were for me, that's all I started. If I'm not kicking, I'm not in the movie.
Let's say we've got somebody who doesn't know your catalog of films, or maybe somebody younger, what movie should they start with?
Red Sun Rising.
Okay. Is that your favorite one that you've done?
It's an HBO world premiere. I did 4 of them. And it's got a little of everything. It's got a love story. There's a female cop. There's a relationship. It's got good character actors, Mako and Michael Ironside, Edward Albert. It's just a well-made movie. The director was very experienced. He's passed away, but he was a British director. And he came here, and that was the first movie he did in the U.S., and he just did a great job. Now, look, I'd like to take all the credit, but I did what I normally do. I memorize my lines, and I give my performance. Directors adjust them. They might say, hey, you're coming off too strong there. You need to back off a little bit, or the directors direct your performance. So if you see a movie and you hear a guy wins an Oscar, go look up the director, because that actor is giving the performance to the director. Unless you're Tom Cruise, because you can just tell the director, hey, this is the way I want to do it. I heard he did that to Spielberg, by the way. Spielberg had a scene. He told Tom what to do. Tom said, come over here. And they supposedly And I'm hearing this from the stuntman. The stuntman, he was behind an airbag. And next to the airbag, they didn't know that the stuntmen were hearing him. Spielberg was telling Tom Cruise why he thought he should do this certain thing in the scene. And Tom said, look, my character, regardless, my audience does not want to see me like that. Now, I don't know what it is, crying or he said, my audience does not want to see whatever Spielberg. Now, this is Steven Spielberg.
Can you imagine being such a big actor that you can tell Steven Spielberg, thank you for your notes, but these are unnecessary?
Right. Well, they're not coming to see Spielberg.
It's true.
That movie was called, it was the one with the aliens coming to Earth, War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
He did the remake of War of the Worlds.
Yep.
And that was the one Spielberg. Yeah. So I was told this by a stunt coordinator. He said, we were behind this airbag hanging out and laying there, and we heard Spielberg call Tom Cruise because he's not going to do anything like that. They're not going to have a discussion like that in front of the crew.
No.
So they thought they were alone. And he told me he brought that up because we were working together and he was directing me in a movie. And he was trying to say to me that he says he knows that in the end, it's me that my audience is coming to see. But you know what? I relinquish any power I have on movie sets because there can only be one captain of the ship, and that's the director. Yeah. And I try to give the directors what they want.
Yeah.
And I rarely have had any, there's one time, though. There is one director and one time. It's the only movie I made that there are scenes in the movie I'm ashamed of.
You don't have to name it if you don't want to, but I'd love it if you did. Which one?
It's a movie called Black Belt. Now, here's the reason why I don't like it. I know what happens. If I say the name of the movie, everybody says, oh, I'm going to go see this movie. This is the one movie Don Wilson regrets. But I called the director, the Twilight Zone director. We got into an argument on the set. He wanted me to kick my foot, point of my boot, closer to the other actor's face. I said, wait a minute. This is not even safe what I'm doing. I'm not going to get closer to his face. You move the camera 6 inches to this side, and then it won't show. He had the camera here, and I'm throwing the kick.
Right.
So you can see
the angle.
It's the angle. And the name of the actor is Matthias Hughes. And Matthias Hughes is the gutsiest, nicest guy you will ever meet in your life because he just trusts me not to blind him with I was wearing a cowboy boot. It has a point on it. And the director wants me to get that closer to his face because it looks like a miss because he's got the camera in the wrong spot.
Was it his first martial arts flick?
Right. Now, that director wrote a script. Now, the only reason he wrote the script is this. Roger Corman comes to me and says, Don, what movie do you want to make and who do you want to direct it? And I tell him, this guy, I might as well say, his name's Chuck Moore. And the movie's called Black Belt. But I said, well, he's a screenwriter. He can write the script and direct it. And I like him and I believe we should. So I got him the job. That's the thing. So he comes to me and he says, Don, I'm not changing anything in this script because if they didn't think I could do the job, they wouldn't have gave it to me. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm the one that gave you the job. Right. And you're telling me I have to. The scene was this. There's a guy, a serial killer. It's Matthias Hughes. He's a big, tall, blonde guy. I don't know if you know him as an actor, but he's well known. And the director says, we have to show why he's killing women. We have to show the reason. I said, no, you don't have to show. Why did Jaws eat all those people on that island? It doesn't show that the shark's swimming around. He can't find enough fish. So he starts. Look, the bad guy is defined by his actions. He's just an evil man because he murders women. Why he does it is why does Hannibal Lecter eat people? They never have a scene where you see him.
You think they taste good? I don't know.
We don't know because they didn't show anything like that. Right. He's defined by what he did. Now he was a scary bad guy in Hannibal Lecter. So this guy's a scary guy, and I said he kills women. We don't have to show why, but the director wrote a scene where he's got this young kid sitting on his mother's lap, and she's saying, "I'm going to make you my little husband." Like she was sexually molested by his mother, so he grows up hating women, and that's why he's a serial killer. It's a very distasteful scene. And if you're ever going to show anything like that in a movie, you should do it the way Jodie Foster did with this. There was a rape scene where a girl gets raped on a pool table, and it's based on a reality thing. And Jodie Foster was directing it. And you do it. You do it for the right reason. You don't use incest as a...
It has to move the story forward. If it doesn't move the story forward, there's no point.
Well, you know what? To me, it stopped the movie dead in tracks. It didn't do anything. It didn't sell one more ticket.
Yeah.
Like, people aren't going to say, oh, well, we don't learn why he kills women. Well, then I'm not going to rent it. Right. It's not like that. And anyway, that director and I never worked together again. And most of the directors, I've done multiple films with them because we get along. But, I have what they call mutual approval contracts. In other words, every aspect of filmmaking, if I don't want to do it, I don't have to. If I didn't like the scene, but I have never enforced that. I've never forced some director or producer, and including this guy. I never forced. I told him that's what I believe. We should just cut that scene out. He didn't agree, kept it in. So, I have never enforced it, but I keep it in my contracts because just in case. Oh, there is a scene. I'm not going to tell you this director's name though.
Okay.
But he wants me to do rear nudity in a movie because I guess Van Damme's done it once. I don't remember. Nobody.
I think Van Damme did it more than once.
Okay.
People like seeing his butt.
He was the number 2 or 3 actor in the gay community when he was doing Bloodsport and Kickboxer and all those, which is nothing wrong with that. You can be popular for the gay community. But if you show your rear end, I mean, anyway, I told the director, what do you want me to do this? Well, I'm in a whirlpool. And he said, you'll just reach for the towel. So he said, there's nothing sexual about it. You're not going to be having sex. And I'm thinking to myself, I said, you know what? There's not a single person renting my movies, because back, video, it's going to say, oh, Don Wilson shows his butt. Oh, I better get this one. And, oh, Don doesn't show his butt. Oh, I'll wait for the next. I said, nobody's renting my movies to see my butt. I said, they're renting them to watch me kick butt. That's what I told the director. And I cut that scene right out of the movie.
That should be on a poster right there. That phrase.
They don't pay to see my butt. They pay to see me kick butt.
There's your movie poster.
Yeah.
For your new film.
That's a true story. That's about one of my movies, and I did show my butt in the movie.
Okay. Wow. This has been a ride. I know you're on social media.
Yeah, Facebook.
Website. If people want to follow you and stay up on what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. Listen, when I travel around, I take pictures. I'm not like Cynthia Rothrock. She is like meticulous about it. It's like a job for her. I said, you should be getting paid putting all this information out. But I do. I put it on. I talk to people all over the world, and I enjoy it. And I like being in contact with my friends through Facebook. I was in Iraq a couple of years ago, and called my wife from the hotel. It is free. FaceTime. Yeah. I could see her, and when we had the shutdown, I was in Iraq signing the black belt of the president of Iraq's like nephew or something. Anyway, that's cool. It's weird that the things you do.
Yeah.
The president of Chechnya invited me, Mayweather, and
I saw that.
Martin Ross to his birthday party.
Yeah.
So we all flew there to his birthday party. Yeah. He's a big fight fan, the president of Chechnya. I don't know what's going on now, but I think, Putin's causing so much trouble in that area, because I did like 8 seminars in Ukraine about a year and a half ago. And, Ukraine is just like Russia. It's like we rode tanks into Canada because we don't like something they're doing. And then we call
I'm gonna ask that we draw a hard line there. I try really not to let politics come in.
Not to put politics, right. But anyway, I was in Ukraine, and I taught seminars there, and great people, just like the Russians. I go to Russia. I'm very popular there, and their people are just great people as well.
2 more questions for you. First one: if you could go back now, you could get in a time machine and go back to, let's say 18, maybe right around that first fight, and talk to 18-year-old you. What would you say?
Well, I made some mistakes as a fighter, and I would. One of them is It's not just a saying that anybody can be knocked out at any time by anybody. Like the worst opponent you ever face could still knock you out if you're not careful.
Sure.
And because that actually happened to me. It's not just hearsay. The guy's record was 9-6. He knocked me out in the first round. He had 3 more fights, so now his record's 10-6. He had 3 more fights after that. He got knocked out on all 3, and he retired with a 10-9 record. So the fighter with the worst record knocked me out in the first round. So it's not a saying for me to say, oh, anybody that got. He was called a tune-up bout, first of all. The tune-up bout knocked me out in the first round. I was TKO'd, went down, got up, but I was too dizzy to fight. So I would have told myself, you got to keep your defense. And young fighters come in the gym, and I said, listen, defense first. Make sure you're not going to get hit. Oh, sorry, I apologize, Mike. Forgot this phone is
Hello. Please leave a message after the tone. If you got your home covered with a warranty plan.
Oh,
I love that it's going full circle, right? We talked about this at the beginning, that it's always a scam. Defense first.
Yeah, defense first. That's wish. I wish somebody told that the first day. Now I learned that. I don't remember when in my career, but where I made it so that my opponents would not score on me. Therefore, it took all the pressure off my offense, right? If you go through a round without being hit, all you got to do is land 2 jabs, you win that round. And so, that's one thing. The other thing is, it's very easy to knock people out. All you have to do is hit them with the punch they're not expecting. That's how you knock people out. If the guy's ready for it and you're not going to knock him out. You're going to hit his head, knock him around. But you get him I tell him, you get him to look at Heckle and you hit him with Jekyll. And that's a very simple strategy. Throw kicks high, and then you drop down low, throw a body shot. Kick low, and then come over the top with the overhand right, knock the guy out. So setting people up, it's you get them thinking one thing, like misdirecting them, kind of, like get somebody to look at the matador with the cape.
Yeah.
The bull looks at the cape, not the guy's body, and he gets mad, and then he goes for the cape, and he keeps missing the guy. And that kind of strategy doesn't just work in bullfights; it works in the real fight game. There's a reason I keep my one hand down. I keep it down because it looks open, and guys try to throw overhand rights when I'm southpaw. They try to hit southpaw with right hands, and I counter it with my side kick to the body. So I'm thinking like 2 moves in advance, and like a chess player, you got to think a few techniques in advance, maybe even a few rounds in advance. It just happened. This is a coincidence it was not planned strategy, but it worked out this way. My last fight was a 10-round fight. I couldn't throw right hands because I had fractured my rib the week before the fight. So I was afraid if I threw the right hand, that exposed all this, right? The guy might kick it, he might hit it. So I kept my right hand here the whole fight, and it's the 9th round or 10th round, and I'm not winning. Both my corners saying it's close, and it's his hometown, Atlantic City. He's main event here many times. You're not. My trainer said, look at those crowd, and it's a sold-out crowd. He goes, if he gets the decision, there's not going to be any booing. He's going to be cheered out of here because it's a close fight. He's a hometown guy. He goes, you got to knock him out. It's the last round, 10th round, you got to knock him out. So I stood up, and I thought, well, you know what? I might as well throw the right hand now, right? I mean, it's the last round. I might as well. And think of it. He had not been hit with a good right hand the whole fight. So his left was down. I took 9 rounds to set him up, not purposely though. Nobody would have the patience, the guts to wait 9 rounds before you throw the right. I threw the right hand, knocked him out. The ring announcer gets the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, winner by knockout in the 10th and final round with 4 seconds left on the clock. And when I told Holyfield that story, he burst out laughing because if you had given me a script that said that, I'd say nobody's going to believe that. The guy's a close fight. He's probably going to lose it. He knocks him out with 4 seconds. But that's my life. That's reality for me. My last fight, I won in the last 4 seconds.
I love it.
Because so you set guys up. The moral of the story is you're asking for techniques that I would have told myself, take your time, set guys up. Don't wait till the last 4 seconds though. That just worked for me. But generally, you got to have defense first. Don't get scored on. Takes the pressure off your offense. And then when you use your offense, you get the guy thinking one thing and then you hit him with something else. And it's not rocket science. It's not rocket. That basically you can be successful. I had a 28-year successful kickboxing career. That's pretty much the basics. Yeah, I worked defense first, which was different. Most guys don't. They get in the gym. They're all about what am I going to hit today? They're not about getting in the ring, start moving. I watched Duran. Duran thinks more like me as well. Well, at least when I saw him training for Leonard the first fight, he was in Miami, and he was doing the moving around the ring for 20 minutes, warming up, just slipping punches, not even really worried about throwing. He just moving, bobbing, weaving. And man, when I looked at him, I thought, wow, if he decides he doesn't want to get hit by Leonard, he's not going to get hit because he just looks so great defensively. Yeah. And think about it, this is a guy like Duran who's a great fighter, real experience, and yet these young amateurs come in there and they don't do 5 minutes of warm up like that. They don't want to spend the time in the ring. They just want to get their gloves on and start punching the bag. Yeah,
fundamentals.
Yeah, fundamentals. And so those are the two things,
And so I've got one more question for you, and this is instead of the other question, which was what would you tell you? This is what would you tell our audience here today? We've got people from all over the world. They train in different ways and for different reasons. What would you leave them with today? You know what I'd like to say to your audience, anybody who sees this, is I have had in my life 2 careers. One was a pro fighter and one was pro actor. And neither career would have been successful if it wasn't for the audience. Because nobody makes money as a fighter if you don't have the stands full of people. Nobody makes money as an actor if people aren't watching it, if the Nielsen ratings aren't high, or because it wasn't theatrical for me, and they're not renting the videos, they're not buying the DVDs. The only way I was able to have the fun I had, because it was really a lot of fun being a boxer, and the successful secondary career that Chuck Norris suggested I do, the acting, is because of the audience. It's because of them. Directly as a result of their support, I was able to have people tell me, "God, you're the luckiest guy in the world. You're the luckiest kickboxer ever. You're the lucky actor." Actors don't come out here and then two years later starring on HBO. Because it doesn't happen. Like millions of people come every year to be actors, and it doesn't happen. They don't get to be stars in movies that often. How many kickboxers can you say starred in 30 films? And not other than you, none.
Films, Hollywood films.
None.
I'm it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say, "Oh, you're a world champion kickboxer. That's why you starred in all these movies." I said, "No. It maybe got my break in the beginning, but it wasn't that. It was." I had support from millions of people all over the world who supported my movies, supported my fight career. And so I'd like to say thank you to all of them that's how, if the last thing the ending the interview is thank you to all the fans. What a great conversation. I want to thank Don for coming on, for being so open and honest and fun. Sometimes we get big names on the show and I get a little bit nervous. They're not going to be fun, but guess what? They've all been super fun. There's something that I think that says about martial arts and what we do. The fact that the biggest names in our space are some of the kindest, friendliest, most entertaining people that you could imagine. So I'm glad we were able to bring this episode to you. And I want to shout out Andrew for all of his hard work in making this one happen. It's not always easy to get the big names. For listeners, if you appreciate this episode, if you appreciate the other things that we do, please consider supporting us, whether it be on Patreon, whether it be with reviews, purchases, books, whatever it is, please consider. And to those of you who already do, thank you. You know how much I appreciate you. If you have topic or guest suggestions, don't be afraid to reach out. My email, jeremy@whistlekick.com. Our social media is @whistlekick. And that brings us to the end. Until next time, train hard, smile, and have a great day.